Hey all, this is Redditosker. It has become the default assumption that Link and Zelda in Tears of the Kingdom are living in the same house. I don't think that assumption is true, and in this video I'm going to explain why. First though, let me present the evidence in favor of this theory. In favor of the idea that Link and Zelda are both living in this house. The first piece of evidence is that this is supposed to be Link's house. This is the house that Link buys in Breath of the Wild. In Tears of the Kingdom, it's clear that Zelda is living here, and so it's only natural that people came to the assumption that they're living together. The second piece of evidence in favor of this theory is in Zelda's diary, in the well beneath her house. In that diary, she states that no matter where she goes to offer aid, Link remains at her side. This means that Link is with her anytime she leaves the village to assist in the reconstruction after the calamity, which at the very least implies that he's easily accessible. Now the final piece of evidence is in Zelda's journal on the main house. In this journal she states that she had Bolson construct a secret room to her house, one that won't appear on the plans, and that this room has proven very useful when she's working alone and need to concentrate. She's referring to the area beneath the well, and this is a strong piece of evidence towards Link and Zelda living together, because after all, she wouldn't need an extra room to be alone and focus on her work if she lived by herself in the first place. Alright, that's all the evidence in favor of Link and Zelda living together. And I admit, that's pretty damning evidence. I am absolutely not surprised that people think that. But let me just present some of the evidence to the contrary, and you can see what you think at the end of this video. First, let's establish exactly what's being asserted here. What's being asserted is that Link owned this house at the end of Breath of the Wild, and following the defeat of Ganon, Zelda moves in, and Link and Zelda live together in this house for years. It's not clear exactly how long the time skip was between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but it's several years at least. A good indicator would be Hudson in Terrytown didn't have a daughter when Breath of the Wild ended. He had just gotten married. But in Tears of the Kingdom, he does have a daughter, and she's old enough now that she needs to go move to Gerudo Village. So that's a significant amount of time however you slice it. Link and Zelda have been living in that house for years. Zelda has been essential in the reconstruction of Hyrule at large, but she's also been important in the Hateno community. She built a school there, and the school children know and like her. And Link would have been present, living in that house throughout all of this. That's what's being alleged. Now, here's the first problem with that theory. Nobody in Hateno Village knows who Link is. And that's not hyperbole. I mean, not one person knows who you are. I started up a new save file just to test it. The shopkeepers don't know you. The farmers don't know you. None of the people that guard the gate know you. None of these people, who are supposedly your neighbors for years, know who you are. The only person in the entire town to recognize you is Purah's old assistant. And he recognizes you for reasons other than him knowing that you live in this town. Now, let me explain why this is weird. People know who Link is in this game. People recognize Link a lot. It's not the case that it's only these minor NPCs that don't recognize him. No, minor NPCs recognize him all the time. If you start up a new save file, you'll start noticing tons of people know who Link is. He's like, oh, Link, it's wonderful to see you again. Where's Zelda? Where have you been? People so minor, I don't know who they are. I don't remember if they were in Breath of the Wild or not. So it's strange for some minor NPCs to recognize Link and know who he is, but the people that have lived next to Link and Zelda for years don't know who he is. And it's not just that the people of Hateno don't exclaim, wow, where you been? It's been a while. It's not even like that. It's not even that they're neutral to Link. It's that they go out of their way to make it clear they don't know who you are. Let me showcase just a couple of important people who should know Link, but don't. First of all, the mayor of the village. When you first talk to Mayor Reed, he says, don't think I've ever seen you around. Are you a traveler? So, the mayor of the town that you and Zelda supposedly live in together doesn't know who you are. Okay, alright. You know, the mayor's a busy man. He's busy tending to his crops. Who knows what egg-related emergencies occupy his mind? So let's just let that go for now, and see what other important people don't know who you are. The second person, who definitely should know who you are, but doesn't, is the mayor's wife. Why is she important? Well, because every day, Clavia comes to Zelda's house to clean it, to keep it tidy, for when Zelda returns. Now, she's either doing this because Zelda personally asked her to keep her house clean while she's gone, or she's doing it out of her own volition. In either situation, she would need to be comfortable enough with Zelda, need to know her personally well enough that this isn't weird. So either Link and Zelda asked Clavia to clean the house for them while they're away, and she agrees, or she knows that Zelda isn't going to mind her being in the house to clean it. They have a close enough relationship where she can do this comfortably. And this is important, because when you talk to Clavia for the first time, she says, "Oh, you're that customer I saw in Ventist Clothing, aren't you?" That's how she recognizes Link. That's how she addresses the supposed owner or co-owner of this home. But now, let me get to the big one. The children of Hateno Village. Zelda established a school in Hateno Village for the kids. She goes there often, and a big deal is made about how the kids love Zelda. They know Zelda. They love Zelda so much. And these kids have been in her house. They go to her house all the time. Clavia tells us that this house would get crowded with kids as soon as lessons were over. More than any other person, these kids should know who Link is if he was really living in that house. But they don't. None of them do. And the most damning of all is Karen. Karen seems to be the most attached to Zelda, and every day he goes to her house to see if she's come back. This is what he says the first time you talk to him. "Do you have business at Miss Zelda's house too, mister? You know she's not back home yet, right?" Karen goes on to say that Zelda always used to say "see you later" whenever she left the village, but not the time before she disappeared. Now this wording is a little ambiguous, but this might mean that Karen was present the last time anyone in Hateno Village saw Zelda. She left to go investigate underneath the castle, and she didn't say "see you later," which caught his attention. And very notably, he doesn't mention you. Link was not present when Zelda left the village for the last time. She must have met up with him somewhere along the way. Okay. I've presented most of the evidence that Link and Zelda are not living together in that house, that Zelda is living there by herself, and wherever Link is, he's somewhere else. But he does not live in that village. I think the evidence is pretty compelling, and at least as compelling as the initial 3 points that I presented in favor of them living together at the start of this video. But to further my case, now let me weaken some of those early 3 points a bit. One of those points was that Zelda had her work area built behind the house, and that work area was hidden so that she could be by herself, so that she could be alone and concentrate, and that she wouldn't have to have that hidden, secluded area if she lived by herself. Well, over the course of our investigation here, now we know why she needed that space. It wasn't because Link lived there. It's because the kids would come there every day. Because the house would get crowded with kids as soon as lessons were over. She wasn't hiding from Link to concentrate. Link doesn't talk in the first place. He wouldn't be bothering her. She was hiding from the children. The other piece of evidence is that Link is constantly with her when she's going out on her missions to rebuild Hyrule. He travels with her across the land all the time. But again, according to our investigations, Karen tells us that Link wasn't with her the time that she left. That he wasn't with her in any of the times that she left. Implying that they're meeting up somewhere outside of town before heading out on their various journeys. And really, that's the only thing that makes sense. That's the only thing that explains why no one in this village knows who Link is. The only remaining credible piece of evidence left is that Link owned the house in Breath of the Wild. But when you think about it, that doesn't really mean anything. That problem is as easy to resolve as Link just gave her the house. When you look in the house, nothing in that house suggests that Link lives there. All of the things that you had in Breath of the Wild, the things you collected, your weapon frames and such, all that's gone. Now personally, I choose to believe that Zelda's not the type of girl that when she moves in with the guy, she makes him get rid of all his cool stuff. The people in favor of them living together here are actually doing Zelda a disservice, I think. Because they're saying that she's the type of person to throw out your PlayStation when you move in together and not let you talk to any of the neighbors. Because that's what would have had to happen for this current situation to arise. For all of his stuff to be gone and for no one to know who he is. Now I think that's good enough, but just to add a little more, there actually is another way to explain the situation. Because apart from the people in Hateno village, there's one more notable person that doesn't recognize you, and that's Bolson. And Bolson is in Lurelin village, and he, like the people of Hateno, do not know who you are. And it's particularly weird for Bolson because he was an important character in Breath of the Wild. He's the one who sold you your house. He's the reason why we think that house is Link's in the first place. We get a lot of interactions with Bolson in Breath of the Wild. He's much more important than Hudson was at the time. You gave this man a lot of rupees. You invited him to Hudson's wedding. We had a heart-to-heart. We had a moment there. Bolson should absolutely remember Link, but apparently he doesn't. And what's weirder is that Hudson does. In Breath of the Wild, you can't do the Terrytown quest. You can't build Terrytown without first talking to Bolson. It's very strange. The only explanation I can think of for this odd series of events is that for whatever reason Nintendo decided that the Terrytown quest was canon and you did do that, but the Bolson-related quest that involved you buying that house is not canon, and you never did that, and you never bought the house. Now, this theory doesn't really matter too much. Even if for some reason I'm wrong about this, the most likely explanation is still that Link gave Zelda his house. But if I'm right, and Link never owned this house, never met with Bolson, never purchased it, then that goes a long way to explaining why nobody knows who Link is in Hateno. And it explains the otherwise baffling circumstance of Bolson not knowing who you are. And I think that's the better explanation. Because we had a moment with Bolson. He told us youth doesn't last forever. He gave us life advice. We were at Hudson's wedding. And if all of that still happened, but Bolson doesn't remember it, then for him it wasn't that important. If he doesn't recognize us, that means to him we were just another customer. And frankly, I don't want to believe that. It's a better explanation that in this canon it just didn't happen. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Please unsubscribe and unclick the bell notification. And if I haven't alienated you enough to do that, I'm sure I'll get to you in a future video. Until then, thank you very much for watching.